think now everyone joined. So welcome everyone. Today's session is about Python, and before starting, we will first discuss why we are studying Python. There are many languages in the market: C++, Java, Swift, Go. But specifically, why we are choosing Python is a widely used language in the data engineering as well as for the data scientists. So whenever we speak about data, uh, Python will pop up because it have all the libraries. It have the vast array of libraries which supports the data wrangling tasks very easily, and you can perform all the data wrangling tasks very efficiently. So Python is a programming language. So in a programming language, uh, you need to run a programming language in your machine. You had to install that particular package to run it. So I guess everybody have installed the Python in their machine by going through that video, and also install the Jupyter notebook. So let me share my screen, and then so once you have installed the Jupyter notebook, the command to install the Jupyter notebook is pip install Jupyter notebook. Okay, for me it is already installed, so I'm not running it. So to run the Jupyter notebook, I can just type Jupyter notebook and it will start the server like this, and I can create one notebook by running a Python kernel. Okay, so a programming language have a lot of things. So the first foremost thing is variables. So like we had studied in schools, like we say a plus b, and we are given the value of a, let's say 2, we are given the value of b 3, so we can identify like a plus b is 5. So a and b are what? They are variable because their values can vary, right? If I change the values, the value for this will change. Now it is 6. So to assign some variable, so variables are basically containers where we can assign some value. And values, what sort of values we can assign? Values could be the integer values or the string value, which we call varchar in SQL. Then we had the float value, which we call decimal in our SQL statements. Then we have the other object types like date time, or there we can create our own. So these are the primitive data types. So by primitive data types, what I mean is these are the data types that are support naturally. Like if I had to assign one integer value to a particular variable, then I can simply say a equals to 3, b equals to 3, b equals to 3, or any variable name equals to any integer. Similarly to for string, float, and other values. But for non-primitive type, we had to create that object. So let's start. So everyone is clear what variable is. Like variable is something in which we can assign value. So in the Jupyter notebook, if you look at the Jupyter notebook interface, this interface will give you cells, okay, where you can execute the code. You can move around in the cells, and to execute this code, we can press run. So it executed this particular block. If I wanted to see the value of a, to print any value of a variable, I can say print a. Okay, if I would have assigned some other value, let's say Python itself, if I run this, now my a contain Python instead of 3. So if I now print the value of a, it will print Python. Right, whatever since it's a variable, whatever I fill into it, it will contain that, and by using print function we can fetch the value, like we can print the value of the variable on the console, which is here. Okay, so we can assign any variable, like let's say if we assign a equals to 3, some other value b1, let's say I run this part, I can do all sort of operations like plus, minus, modulus. Like if I plus both of the things, like the shortcut to run the particular block from the keyboard is shift enter. So if I press the shift enter, it will execute this block. And since my value of this variable is 3 and this one is 1, plus will be 4. This is how the answer arrived. I can do plus, I can do minus, I can do divide or multiply, anything. Okay, so this is about variables. Then let's say someone asked us if we had to swap these two variables. I had some value 3 in this a variable, I had one value in the b variable. What I wanted is, I wanted value of a to be 1 and value of b to be 3. I wanted to swap these values. Okay, so how can I do that? So basically, when we think in terms of program, we had to think in terms of variable, like we will store the values, and we had to perform the calculations in such a way that we had to so that we can arrive at the certain destination. Now it's a simple statement. I want the value, whatever value in b into a, and the value of a into b, like swapping the values. So to swap it, what I can do, like if I talk in a very naive sense, I can store some, I can create another third variable where I can store the value of my current value. Like if I illustrate it to you, maybe it will be a little better. So let's say this variable is a, this variable is b, and in the variable this and this. So the end result that we want is, we want the value of b to be exchanged with a. So for that, what I can do, I can create a third variable. I will store the value of a in my temp variable, and then I can store the value of b in my first variable. Why I choose the temp variable? If I don't have this temp variable, then if I copy the value of b in a, then I don't have any way to recover this first value, because it is gone. So now I can copy the value from the temp, which is 3, and I don't need to take care of the temp. My value of a and b are exchanged. So to write the same logic in my Python, what I had to do, I have already set the a equals to 3 and b equals to 1. So I will create a temp which is a. Then what I did, since I have stored the value of a, now I can change the value of a, and now I can change the value of b. This is what I did in the Excel, in the representation, right? So if I do this and then I say print the value of a, this is 1, and print the value of b, this is 3. We have swapped the values, right? So this is how you can play around with the variables. You can swap the values, you can divide, multiply, you can create new variables, and play around with it. So the next thing that a variable have is the data type of the variable. Okay, so now a is of type integer because it carries an integer value. So what if I say a is 3.0? So it's a decimal type. If we talk of SQL, if we try to relate it with SQL, it is a decimal type. So here in Python we call it float. Float means it could be a number which carries a decimal. Okay. Then when we say string is the varchar what we mentioned as varchar in the SQL, where we can store any length of a string, like say b is this is. So if I print b now, it will say this is. So this is the type of b is a string. So these are the some of the data types. Okay. Any doubts still here? Like what are variables and what are the data types? No, in Python, like we are given this flexibility. We don't have to mention the data type of the variable. In other languages we have to, but in Python it is straightforward. So we know the variables, we know the data types, but let's say we wanted to store since the variable can store only one value. What we want is some list of values to be stored. So for that, what we had a data type called array. Okay. So what array exactly mean is, so when you say a RAM, or system RAM, so in system RAM, the memories are allocated with some addresses. Let's say I'm just giving some random addresses name. Let's say 100, 102, 104, 106. Okay, so I gave these four memory addresses. So in these addresses, whenever we assign a variable, okay, so it will capture any of the memory. It will capture it will be assigned at any memory point. Like let's say my variable, if this is my variable a, which is 1, so it is stored at this address, which carry the value 1. So address is same. I can change the value of this and can continue to do so. That is how it is the variables work. Okay, but when we talk about array, it will give us the it will assign a continuous memory in my RAM. So one is stored here, then 2 is stored here, 3 is stored here, 4 is stored here. Continuously it will store. So whenever we want some list to be stored, we can use array. Like how we can represent an array? We can club them together by using these square brackets. So one peculiar thing about this array type is we can only store similar data types. Now I have stored integer, 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 integer. Can I introduce a string in this? No. Then it's not an array, because array supports similar data types. If all are string, then it's my string array. If all are integer, then it's an integer array. Otherwise, if I try to give any value, like if I do this, okay, let me comment this out. Like if we want some line not to be executed, we can press hash in front of that line. So this is known as commenting. So it will treat it as a comment and it won't execute this particular line. So the only thing that is getting executed is this. Okay. So will it still work if I enter any string value? It does, since it's a Python list. But now it's not an array. Array only contains similar data types. Okay, so this is the array. So how can we, if I show you a, if I print a, then I can see 1 2 3 4. So can I access the first element of this? So to access an array, my indexes starts from 0. Like this is the 0th index, this is the first, this is second, this is the third. Like whenever we wanted to access the first element, instead of calling it 1, I will call it 0, because it's the array indexes started from 0. So to access any element, I can give square brackets, okay, a of 0. That means which value it will give me? 1. If I say 1, then 0 1, it should give me second value. So this is how we access the array elements. Now can someone tell me, let's say if we had to swap two values in the array, like I wanted to swap the second element with my fourth element, can someone tell me how to do that? Like if anyone can unmute the mic and you guys are picking up. Anil, So what you did here is a of 0 means first element, which we replaced it with 3, and a of 1 is 4, which you replaced it with the 4. But see, this is a static method. Let's say if a if you're trying to copy these values onto these values, so if let's say this is not 3, this is 6, now your logic will fail because you have mentioned 3 and 4. So you had to mention static in a variable way, like for a of 0, if I wanted to copy the third element value, which is a of 2. So now this will work anytime, a of 3. So now I am copying these two values, the second and third index, to 0th and first index. So now this will work every time. It is not static. Like if I do this, and then I print the value of A, you can see 6464. Okay. So as we are talking about the swapping of the element, what we intend to do is, let's say we wanted this array to be like this. We will swap this value with my last value. So it should be like 4 and 6. So how can I achieve it? We had done it for a single variable. So if we had to done it in an array though, then we can still approach it in the same way. These are just elements only, right? What we did earlier, we stored it into a temporary variable, and then I copied the value and then replaced the second variable value with the temporary. Can't I do the same here? I created one temp variable and I copied my third index value. By a of 3 I mean 4. I copied this index. Then I replaced this with my previous value, and then for the second value I replaced it like this. Now my values are swapped. So if I print A 1246, that is what we desired, right? The approach is same. It's just the way we access the elements, it changed, because we are now accessing the array elements. So we had to always think of an approach first, and then we can think about how to access and how to write the code. All right. So we had 2-3 things in the Python, like there are loops, there are conditional statements. Let me go through it one by one. So what I mean with loop is a loop basically. So if I wanted to say so you might have list, if you like a song on Spotify or any other music app you listen to, you put the song on loop. So what it does, it keeps on repeating, right? Or if you put it a playlist on loop, so it will go through each song, and let's say these are all the songs 1 3 3 1 2. So it will loop through all the songs and just iterate, right? This is what looping is. So here also it is the same thing. In the loops, we can construct some statements using which we can iterate over. We can change the values. We can run in the loops. So we had 2 kinds of loops, while loop and the for loop. So let's discuss while loop first. So let's say I had said I equals to 0. Okay, I created one variable. Up until everyone is fine with it. So in the while loop, so I am saying that while, so this while loop accepts a condition. Let me write the syntax first, then we will write the full thing. So it accepts a condition. Condition could be something is greater than 0, something not equals to something, like this, any condition. And then we can write inside, if my condition is satisfied, then do this, and keep on doing this until my condition is satisfied. Simple enough. Like we had to do a certain thing until my condition is met. If my condition doesn't met, then I will not do this. I will go outside. So while we write in Python, we had a concept of blocks. Okay. So here, like I am writing while I am giving some condition. Let's say while my I is less than 5. So the condition is meeting now because my value of I is 0. Is 0 less than 5? Yes, it is less than 5. So to go inside a block, like when we are mentioning a statement, like while my condition is met, do certain thing. So we had to write this do certain thing in the block. And how we mention this is a block? By giving some indentation, some white space. Like here I gave one tab. So I gave one tab. Now let's say if I say print I, and I incremented the value of I. Now instead of I said I plus 1. So if I go through it, what it is doing, this is my loop, while loop, where I had specified a condition. My I is less than 5. So currently my I is 0. So is 0 is less than 5? Yes, it is. So print the value of I. And then the value of I is I plus 1. That means if my current value of I is 0, then my after going through this, my value of I is I plus 1, which is 0 plus 1, which is 1. So now I have the 1. Now since it's a loop, it will again go through this and again validate this condition. Is my I less than 5? 1 is less than 5. Yes. So it will print 1, and then I will store 2. Then 2 is less than 5. The same loop will continue up until this condition is false. So if I run it, I printed 0, then I changed my value of I, then I again printed 1, 2, 3, 4. Why it is not printing 5? Because when my value of I is 5, then 5 is less than 5. No, it's not true. So it exited this block. So you got the hang of like how the while block work? What is a while loop? All right. So there is one thing we had to be very vigilant when we are using while loop. Let's say if we forgot to update the value of I, that means I will always be 0. Since I is always 0, I will always be less than 5. So this condition will always satisfy, and this it will keep on printing, and it will never end. It can never go out of it. So your program will stuck at this point. See, it keeps on printing, it's keep on printing 0, and it is still running. I had to interrupt the kernel. See, so this is how this while loop works. So we had to very vigilant that we had to close this loop somehow by interrupting this condition. So for this to interrupt this condition, we are incrementing the value of I, so that eventually it will get greater than 5 and the loop will terminate. So similar to that, we have one more loop. Okay, that loop we call for loop. So in for loop, what we say, we mention like my element and we had to mention like so this is one variable, okay, and in we wanted to we will say for I in any range or in an array basically. So right now my a is an array, so I can print I. So what it will do, it will it will fetch the element one by one. So let's not say a, let's say 1 2 1 3. So it will fetch 2 first. So whenever we are using for loop, we will be using it on top of any arrays or list, okay, and this for loop help us to iterate one by one on each element. So when we say for I in 2 1 3, so what is I? I is my variable, and inside the inside this for block, by mentioning the block, I mean to give the indentations, and I can then run my whatever query or whatever program that I wanted to write here inside this for block. So here we don't have to be that vigilant, because we will be having a fixed set of array, like fixed size of the array, and we are iterating over each element of it. So we can safely perform this operation without being vigilant of this ever running loop, which is called infinite loop. Like if we run this, we will print 2 1 3. So everybody is cleared with the syntax of the loops, while and for loop? All right. So let's say I had to print all my values of my array A, then how should I do it? Can I do it using for loop? Yes, I can. I will iterate over each element 1 2 4 6 and can print it. Okay. All right. Now comes the conditional statements. Okay. For conditional statements, when we say condition means we are saying if something happens, then I will do something. If my condition is satisfied, then do something. Else, if it is not satisfied, then do other things. Okay, so this is what conditions are, and we had to use this if and else many times, just to based on the conditions we wanted to specify. Let's say in this, while printing this array, I wanted to give a condition, like if my element is greater than 3, then I wanted to print the value, otherwise I don't want. Right now I am printing all the values, but let's say I am saying if my element I is greater than 3, then only print this. So here you see the syntax. So inside this for loop, I have written if, and to put the elements inside the if block, I had to mark the indentation. So here I am giving one more tab. So these spaces are defined in which block it is. So if I run this, what will be my output? 4 and 6. because I specified this condition. This program will go inside this loop, inside this if, only and only if my condition is met. And I wanted to say the else part, like if my condition doesn't met, then do this. So I can say less than 3. So for the first two values, my condition doesn't met. It started here, the condition doesn't met, it went in the else block and printed this thing. For second value, same stuff. Then for the third value, the condition is satisfied. Fourth value is the same thing. So this is how we can define the conditions, and based on the conditions, we can define the route our program will take. No, it is mandatory, we had to do it. Let's say if I don't if I try to add something without proper spaces, since if I'm writing here, let's say anything, so it will not print s, it will throw me an error. What error it will throw? The indentation is not proper. Why the indentation is not proper? Because it is neither in this else block, neither in the for block. Because to be in the for block, the spacing should be this much. If I gave more than that, then it means it's a syntax error. See, it gave me an indent, does not match any outer indentation level for this print statement. So to make it work, I can either align it with inside my else block. So now it is inside else block, and now inside it is inside for block. Okay. So anyone have any queries till now? Yep. Whenever we had to define certain block, we had to press we had to mention colon. Like yep, to go inside if block, we will press colon, and we had to give the proper indentation from this if to put the code inside this if block. Similarly, if I wanted to put the code inside for block, I will give the colon, and from this I will give the proper indentation and write it. Okay. Basically all the condition, so this is the block of the if. Right. So a block will start with the indentation, like whatever have the proper indentation, it will be its block. So whatever is having the indentation at this level, it will all come inside the if block. If I write something like print ABC, so this will also come inside this if block. But if I say this, it is not. So this is how the syntax is defined in Python. Okay. So after this after this loops and conditional statement, we had one more thing, which is dictionaries. Okay. So by dictionaries, what I mean is, right now we had seen the arrays. So if I had an array, let's say I just give some different value. Okay, so index 0 is 5, 1, 2, 3. um, if if I wanted to access any element of this array, I will access it like this: a of 0 or a of 1, a of 2, right, based on the indexes. But let's say if I wanted to put some values where I cannot call based on my numerics. Instead of numerics, I wanted to use some string or some other data type. Then this type of data structure is called dictionary in Python. So how we will define it? So it's kind of a mapping. Let's say if I create a D equals to dict. Okay, so this dict is by using this we can define a dictionary. Okay, so what a dictionary means to be is like it carries a key value pair. Let's say value of A is 1, value of B is 3. So I had some key and I have some value associated with it. Okay, so to access certain key to access certain value I need the value of the key. So how we define it? Like we had created an empty dictionary right now. So let's say if I show it to you, the print of D, this is an empty dictionary. I can populate some values into it. D of A equals to 2. Now I have populated. The value of A is 2. So it's a key value mapping. So where we use it wherever we wanted to get the easy access based on my string or by any other data type, because in array we can only access it via integer because we have integer indexes. Just to illustrate, now we have placed some value 2 here. Like whatever value we wanted to add to it, we can simply add like Virat equals to 20. So this is how we can add some values into the dictionary. If you wanted to access those values, we can use the same keys. The value of Virat is 20. Okay, so this is what dictionary means. So let's do one question. After that, maybe you will get more clear idea where to use dictionaries and when we should use arrays. Let's say we had a particular string A B C A B B D E. Okay. I created one variable name str_test and I'm storing this string. Now what I want is I wanted to check the counts of my characters, like how many times A come in this string, how many times B is there. So A comes 2 times, B come 3 times, C is 1 time, D is 1 time, E is 1 time. So how can we do that is if we know, basically if we know that my we had A, okay, we had B and we had C, we had D and we had E. then we can iterate over this string. Like if I iterate over this string, I am creating one variable ch, and I am iterating over this str test. Okay, by using for loop. So what will be the first time fetch for this ch? A. First it will take A, then B, then C, A, right? So the most basic way that I can think of to count these values is, I will go through each element, and wherever I had that element, I will increment that counter. I have initiated these 5 variables, and I will increment it one by one based on what is the value. So since I am incrementing it based on what is the value, that means it is a condition. So I am saying a condition, if my ch is equals to A, for comparison we had to like equals to comparison, we had to say double equals. Then I will increment my A plus 1. So inside this if else thing, there is another construct. Like if I say, if my condition is met, then do something, else do something. Or if I wanted to say another condition, I mean else if there is another condition, then do this, otherwise do this. So I can add multiple else, elif. So in short, it is called elif, ELIF. Okay, so we don't have to get confused with it. So I said elif, that means else. If this is not, then I can say ch equals to b, then increment b. Elif, if my ch equals to c, then increment c, like this. So we can write rest of the stuff as well. So I am leaving it till here. So I am counting only A, B, C till now. So if I run this and I check for the values A, B, C, so the counter of A is 2, the counter of B is 3, and the counter of C is 1. Okay, but it could have any number of elements, right? It could have Z as well. I cannot keep on typing all the things. So better way is, instead of storing it like this, what I can create? I can create a dictionary and I can have a mapping, right? Let's say I created a dictionary. Either you can create it like this, or you can also just simply refer, you can simply type this curly braces. So this also represent an empty dictionary. Okay, now what I am doing is, instead of writing all this, let's say I write it into different block. What I will do is, if I don't have any value in my dictionary, then I will then what I will do, I will add that value. Like basically, if I like show you what I intend to say is, so let's say if D is my dictionary, so if my element is not present in D, then add the first value. So either it could be A or B or C as 1, and else we will increment the value which is present, which will be my current element plus 1. Okay, so like this we checked. So we can simply check if my ch in my dictionary, then I will say my d of ch, I will increment it, else what I will do, I will initiate this as 1. I have done the same thing till now. Okay, I missed the colon. See, it said me that invalid syntax. Now if you check D, now it have all the mappings. Since it can store the string keys and the values, like value can also be string. It basically has mappings. So we can use it like this based on the use cases. So any questions on it? Like dictionaries are more like a table. You had a table like A, B, C. You wanted to get, and based on the first value, you wanted to fetch the second value. So it's like that. And when we talk about arrays, arrays is more like you have continuous elements, and you are accessing based on the index 0, 1, 2, 3, like this. For dictionaries, you can access it based on the elements. Okay. This is a programming language, and you guys might be new to this programming languages. So I would say we will close our class after this, so that you can do small practices based on, you can write a small code, check the syntaxes, just to get a hang of the Python language. Then we can discuss more complex stuff. So you can ask questions over what you didn't understand. Okay, square brackets and curve brackets. All right. So this when we say curly braces, so like this is a specified syntax. Like if you give square brackets, then it represents an array. Okay. When we say curly braces, then it represents a dictionary. So let's say instead I represent it as like this, a equals to something like this. So now this a is an array which is empty right now. I can fill up values in it, but both represent different thing. Like one is the dictionary and one is the array. And just to access any elements, either in dictionary or either in the array, we will use the syntax like the variable name, then the square brackets and the value which we want to access. In case of arrays, it will be indexes. In case of dictionary, it will be the key. Um, yep, here if we say that we are specifying it, then it is an array. But like basically we use this square brackets, like if we are putting some value within this square brackets, it is basically used to access the dictionary and arrays both. Like I wanted to access some element in the dictionary, so what I will do, if I show you my D is like this. I wanted to access element A in this dictionary, which is 2. Let me just, so I wanted to access element B of this, so this is 3. So it is used to access the elements. Or let's say if I had some array 2 3 4 and I wanted to access the element of A, so I can use this square brackets and put it inside. So I am accessing the second index 0 1 2, which is 4. So this is used to access values. Any more question? Like it's totally fine. Many of you would have understood partial of it. So it's better speak up and clear the doubts. Like we do have every concept in Python, like but to go to the database, like basically we don't create database in Python, we do connect to database using Python. Mm-hmm. Like we have to save, and we have to say we can think of the location. Either we can store it in the server, we can store it in server, we can run it in local, like based on the requirement. So it's a general purpose programming language. We can do pretty much anything using this language. We can create web applications, we can run big data applications on top of it. um, it's a general purpose thing. It's just the matter of writing the code. Mm-hmm. 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 Got it. It will take the second one. Yeah, same program. Basically, it's not recommended to use a integer type variable to assign some string, like to change the data type, but like Python do supports it, so we can place whatever value we wanted to place in the variable and print it or use it. Like variable is more of a placeholder in Python where you can store anything, literally anything. Mm-hmm. 44. No. I just wrote this just to make you understand what I am writing in this if else block. So what I mentioned here is um, we will try, since we are iterating over the element one by one. We had the str test. Str test is this string. So when we say for ch in str test, that means the ch is the variable which will be iterating on all the elements. Like it will first take the value a, then b, c, a, b, b. So inside this for loop, what we are doing is, if we are checking if my element is not present in my dictionary. I was just telling this. If my element is not present in my dictionary, then I will make an entry in my dictionary like this, the element equals to 1. Else, I will increment the value of my element. So this is what I did here. So if my element is present, then I am incrementing the value. Else, I am if my element is not present, then I am adding that element equals to 1, like this. It's not executed. Okay, you can share the code maybe on chat. I can look at it. Like you can post it in group if you are facing issues. I can answer there as well, or you can right now you can also share in this chats, Teams chat. So that we can all take a look at it, like what is the syntax issue. So are you pasting it? Oh, it's all right. Okay, meanwhile Somya will share that snapshot. Anybody else have any other questions? I will share some more videos on Python after this class. You can also go through them. That will help you to like clear more of the concepts. Like I hope after this session the basic concepts of all of you got cleared, and you will be able to write very basic program. Like you can assign some values to the variable, you can loop onto the array and print some values. You can put some conditional statement on top of it. Okay, you had shared it. Okay, you guys can check in the group. Somya had shared the snapshot. So if you see there, like the syntax error, what it is what she tried doing something like this. Okay, So this will give me the syntax error at the else part. Why it will do this? Because there could else could not exist without if. I can only say like if this is if my condition is met, then do something, else do something. We cannot since it is inside the block of if, so this will not else will not get its if condition. Like basically it is something like writing else, and then I am writing something inside. So this is bound to give me a syntax error because else requires a if condition. So if I mentioned a if condition, let's say true, then it is a correct syntax. Okay, so here else will not able to get it if, because it will check in this same block, and in this block there is no if. The if exists in this outer block. Now it will work. We had to be very vigilant about the blocking by giving the proper indentation. Does this answer your question, Somya? Okay. Any other questions? If we are good, then we can close the call. Are we good? All right, then let's meet tomorrow for doing some interesting stuff on Python. We will further learn about how to write some complex things in Python, and we will study through what are functions, classes in Python, and how to utilize them. Okay. So meanwhile, you can I will ask you to all of you to write small things in Python. Like you can create some arrays, you can run some loops onto it. Basically just try writing things in Python. That will give you a hang of its syntax first thing, and also give you a basic understanding of what variables are, how to deal in terms of variables, and what are arrays and dictionaries, and accessing them. Okay. All right then. Okay, have a good day. Bye bye.